The Bothy Storytelling Podcast is a member of the Alberta Podcast Network, powered by ATB. Welcome to the Bothy Storytelling Podcast, and welcome to the WTF episode, which is pretty much the easiest way to sum it up, because we vanished. I've not been around, and I kind of don't have a proper excuse as to why I've not been doing podcast episodes since the Kyle episode, which I think was in January. So, let me explain, but you know what? Before we explain, let's do a quick word from one of our sponsors. And today's sponsor is the ATB Entrepreneur Centre. As you know, I've spoken about it a few times. It's a place that I love to go to. And basically, the ATB knows that being an entrepreneur and a business owner has its challenges. That's why they've created their entrepreneur centres. So whether you're dreaming, building or growing, you can access a powerful set of tools to help your business and personal finances grow together. With locations in Edmonton, Calgary and Lethbridge, and monthly pop-ups across the province, it's just one more way ATB is helping to reinvent banking. Visit atbentrepreneurscentre.com to find the location closest to you. Okay, the WTF episode is here. Yeah, guys, I have no excuse. I dropped the ball. I vanished off the face of the earth. I got really busy at the end of January, that's true. I have been reasonably busy through February, and as we're now towards the end of March, I've been okay, but nothing to justify not doing my podcasts. I just dropped the ball. I lost heart. I don't know. I wasn't there. Every time I came into my studio, I just didn't quite feel it. I mean, I'll be honest, a few things happened. We had to rearrange the whole house. So beforehand, me and my beautiful fiancée have been living in the basement. We had a housemate living upstairs. We all shared the house, of course, but we had the basement and that was kind of our domain. The housemate moved out, so we decided maybe we should go back upstairs. So we had to rearrange the whole house. And I loved this idea because, that meant we could get the workout room back. I'd have the basement to myself. I'd be able to work down here, not disturb anyone. But the problem is, I think that's also created a slight barrier of, there's nobody down here. I'm all by myself now. My fiance's not in the bedroom early in the morning, and I feel all lonely. And I've not been coming down as much. I'll be honest, this studio has been abandoned for about a month and a half. I've noticed it. My fiance's noticed it. My work has noticed it. So I just I dropped the ball massively. I really did. And there are no excuses. I don't know what was wrong with me. I definitely know I lost a bit of heart. I just could not get the motivation to do this and to do what I wanted to do. And that's a bit of an insult to you guys. I do apologise because, you guys have invested time and effort in my podcast. And here I am going, it's like EO. I've been reading a lot of Winnie the Pooh recently. But it's like, that's how I've been feeling. It's all been hopeless. It's all been pointless. May as well just float down the river into the waterfall and be lost forever. But yeah, I really dropped the ball. I really lost my drive, my emphasis. And you know what? I'm sorry. That's all I can say. I'm really sorry. It was bad of me. I promise to try and not do it again. I know I'm going to miss a few months this year as it is. This shouldn't have been one of those months. This should have been a solid month and a half of podcasting. So here's the thing. I realised I want to fulfill my quota of podcasts to you. So that works out to be, let me just check my little journal here. 1, 2, 3, there's 6. 7, 8, 9, 10. I think it's about 10, maybe 11 podcasts I owe you. So you're going to get them. It is the 25th of March. I have a mission. I am going to basically get 10 podcasts out in the next 5 to 6 days. Well, however many days are left in March, guys. I don't even know. I'm completely oblivious to the world. But yeah, I'm going to try and get out those 10 podcasts or whatever it is that I owe you. They're going to be short, probably 30-minute podcasts, simply because I'm cheap and I don't want to expand my Lisbon account. I've already got a reasonably big one and I don't use it most of the time. 1 month, I nearly, like the podcast with Kyle, I nearly absorbed my whole month with that one. Wow. But yeah, so I'm going to try and hit you with like quick 30-minute podcasts, keep you happy, hopefully bring you back to love me, to be on my side. There's lots of news I need to tell you, but I kind of don't want to put it out of sequence. Although I should, but I don't want to put it out of sequence. But the one bit of news I will tell you is thank you, one and all, because I actually won the Canadian Podcast Award. I won it for the arts, Outstanding Arts Podcast. Okay. I can't even say it with a straight face. I won Outstanding Arts. Really? Could somebody please review all my podcasts? Get in touch with me and tell me exactly what is artistic about the Bothy Storytelling Podcast, because as far as I'm concerned, it is a series of rambles. It is a series of unfortunate events. It's basically just me gibbering and forgetting to do my podcast or not doing my podcast and coming on and apologising for being the worst podcaster on the planet, and then I win awards. I'm really insulted for the people who voted for me, because I just feel ashamed that I haven't been here. But anyway, this is the WTF episode, and it is pretty much, I'm not going to, swear, but it pretty much is just me saying, yeah, I have no idea. I'm confused. I'm lost. I don't know what happened. I could probably mull this over in my head for days, but I put it down to laziness. I put it down to a serious drop in my energy levels. I did get ill a wee bit as well, just with this perpetual cold snap we had. I lost a massive amount of energy, the move, dealing with the dog, dealing with animals going crazy and keeping me up all night. There's a whole factor, but it shouldn't have stopped me doing my work. And I've been off the ball for all my work. I mean, it's not just the podcasting, it's the storytelling and everything. I went and did an event recently. Oh, geez. I don't know what's happened to me. I don't. Oh, right, okay. This is completely out of sequence, but this is an episode of randomness. I'm pledging to make up all these episodes lost for you. I'm going to make sure you guys get your full quota and hopefully, come back on board and forgive me. Forgive this wayward Scotsman for his lack of podcasting time, his insult to his audience, the terrible things I've done. I once spilled whiskey. There you go. There's a confession. I once called my mother a bad name. I don't know. There's loads of bad things. This isn't confession. Anyway, where was I? I was oh gosh, yeah. So I did a storytelling event recently. This is completely out of sequence, and for the first time ever, I realised I'm a crap storyteller. Yeah, something's gone wrong. I used to be okay. I would never say I was great. I'd never say I was good. I used to be okay. But for the first time ever, I realised something has gone wrong. The people back in Scotland would be mortified if they saw me storytelling at the moment. And oddly enough, that night I came back and, I kind of thought it'd gone okay, but I knew something was wrong. But that night I had dreams. And I had dreams that took me back to Scotland. And actually, there was like a few predominant Scottish storytellers in those dreams. And yeah, I think that was my subconscious telling me that maybe you need to sit down, lad, and actually kind of refocus on your craft. Maybe I need to actually go back to my roots a wee bit and remember who I am. You see, Canada is great, but I don't think Canada's good for me in certain ways because I keep forgetting who I am. Because Canada's so vast and everyone's so different, I keep kind of almost forgetting my own craft and trying to become this kind of combination of entertainer, performer, comedian, storyteller, instead of just sticking to who I am. I'm a storyteller. That's it. I'm just, I would love to be a comedian. I'd love to be funny. I'd love to be able to tell jokes, or not jokes, tell stories and weave jokes into them or something, make them humorous. I'd love to. I mean, yes, I am a performer as part of what I do, in essence, but this entertainer side of things, it's almost like I'm trying to ingratiate myself to my audience continually. I'm trying to always make sure that they love me and adore me and I keep them happy and make them laugh. And that's not my job. That is not what I do. My job as a storyteller is to go on and invoke emotion, is to take them on a journey, to give them the gift of story and to basically bring them along with me on that story so that they are seeing the story through my words. They have the story in their head. What I'm doing is I'm breaking the spell constantly, ripping them out of the story with stupid little humour bits and silly little personal moments. And that's wrong. That's not my job. That's not my life. My life as a storyteller is to basically take people out of their worlds for a very short period of time and take them on a joyous journey. And I am so pissed off at myself at the moment for not. I don't know what went wrong. I don't know where it went. But something's changed. But then a part of me also kind of goes, maybe this is how it's supposed to be. Maybe this is the evolution, the natural progression of who I am. But I just sometimes wish I wouldn't do it. I wish. I've done some great storytelling sessions over the last couple of months where, I've made people laugh. I've made them cry. One of the greatest things is when you look out into the audience and you see them crying. Oh, that means you've done your job right. Anyway, this is a personal thing. I need to sit down and kind of just get my head straight again and basically remind myself why I do what I do and the reasons, and also focus on the purpose of what I do. Because there are times and places just to be the entertainer and performer, and there's times that I need to be that storyteller. And I can put them both into a show, but I need to make sure that I'm getting it right. When I'm telling a story, that story is everything. It's no interruptions, no nonsense. And then if I'm telling a certain story, which allows it like a personal story, then it can be that bit more jovial and interrupted. It's all crazy. It's all wonderful. It's all exciting. But geez, I've lost something. And I think that's one of the problems, actually. I think I'm all over the place in my head when it comes to what I do professionally. I'm trying to do too much now as well. I've got the storytelling, I've got the narrative strategist, I've got the studio, which is this part of work. This shouldn't be a problem, and it's not, apart from me not doing it. But yeah, I'm all over the place. And then there's the tours that I'm trying to set up, which are proving to be disastrous. Gosh, I will talk about that later in another episode probably. But yeah, that's proving to... that's causing me probably a little bit more stress and anxiety than some fun project of work should. It's a different world. It's a different day. But yeah, here we go, folks. The beginning of my 5-6 days of solid podcasting. 2 to 3 podcasts a day is my aim. Let's get them out of the way. Let's get you guys all the podcasts you deserve over the next period of time, because you know what? I want to apologise to you in style. I want to make sure that you guys get what you deserve. That sounds arrogant, because that means you deserve me. Because I'm so glorious, so magnificent. And as this podcast proves, I'm not. I'm such a chump. I can't believe I did this. I can't believe I dropped the ball so much and I'm so behind. Now, I'm going to give you a wee story today because you deserve a story. I need to figure out which one to tell, because I haven't actually. I just decided I'm going to tell you a story. This episode wasn't going to have a story, but now it is, because you deserve one. So what story to tell? Always the challenge. There are so many out there, and there's so many that I'm learning. But here is one that I am trying to learn. It is from a lovely little book called 100 Wisdom Stories from Around the World by Margaret Silf. I believe I recommended this book in one of my book recommendations in an earlier episode, but this book is just filled with great wee stories. So here's one for you. It's called The Stone Cutter. Once upon a time there was a stone cutter. Each day he went up to the mountains to cut stones, and while he worked he sang. For though he was a poor man, he desired no more than he had, so he had not a care in the world. Now one day he was called to work upon a mansion of a nobleman, and when he saw the magnificence of this place, he experienced the pain of desire for the first time in his life, and he said with a heavy sigh, "If only I were rich, then I would not have to earn my living in sweat and toil as I do now." Imagine his astonishment when he heard a voice say, "Your wish has been granted. Henceforth anything you desire will be given to you." He did not know what to make of the words till he returned to his hut that evening and found in its place a mansion as magnificent as the one he'd been working on. So the stone cutter gave up cutting stones and began to enjoy the life of the rich. Now one day, when the afternoon was hot and humid, he happened to look out of his window and saw none other than the king go by with a large retinue of noblemen. He thought, "How I wish I were a king myself, sitting in the cool of the royal carriage." His wish was promptly carried out, and he found himself reclining in the comfort of the royal carriage. But the carriage turned out to be warmer than he had assumed it to be. He looked out of the carriage window and began to marvel at the power of the sun, whose heat could penetrate even the thick walls of the carriage. "I wish I were the sun." Once again, his wish was granted, and he found himself sending out waves of heat into the universe. All went well for a while. Then, on a rainy day, he attempted to pierce through a thick bank of clouds and could not. So he got himself changed into a cloud and glorified at his power to keep the sun away, till he turned into rain and found, to his annoyance, a mighty rock that blocked his path, so he was obliged to flow around it. "What?" he cried, "a mere rock more powerful than I? Well then, I wish to be a rock." So there he was, standing tall upon a mountainside. He barely had time to rejoice in his fine figure when he heard a strange chipping noise proceeding from his feet. He looked down. To his dismay, he found a tiny human being sitting there engaged in cutting chunks of stone from his feet. What? A puny creature like that more powerful than an imposing rock like me? I want to be a man. So he found he was once again a stone cutter, going up into the mountains to cut the stone, earning his living in sweat and toil, but with a song in his heart, because he was content to be what he was and to live by what he had. And that is the stone cutter from the 100 Wisdom Stories from Around the World. But let's move on with the podcast and let's move into our book recommendation. Probably should be this book, but I think I did it not that long ago. You know what? Let's just roll with it. My book recommendation for this episode of the Bothy Storytelling Podcast is a book I've recommended before, but I have told a few stories from it. And I would highly recommend it for anyone who's interested in this type of story or any storyteller. And it's 100 Wisdom Stories from Around the World by Margaret Silf. SILF, Margaret Silf. And I love this wee book because it is just filled with great stories. You've just heard me tell the stonecutter. I told the window in a previous story. There's a previous episode. There are other ones. One of my favourites is The Auction, which is another lovely little story. And there is I'm flicking through it here, Optimist and Pessimist. Now, this isn't one I know that well, so I'm actually going to break a cardinal rule and just scan this story. Because I think, you know what, let's just tell you another wee quick story from this book. This is The Optimist and the Pessimist. Once upon a time, there were two little boys. One was an optimist, the other was a pessimist. The two boys each had their own playroom. The little pessimist had a room full of toys. Every Christmas and every birthday, his family and friends brought new toys for him to play with. But each time he would sit in the middle of the room and start to cry because he had no drum. He wanted a drum so much, and so he was forever disappointed. The toys lay scattered around him, untouched and unappreciated. The little optimist wasn't so lucky. All that he had in his playroom was a pile of manure from the farmyard and a fork. It happened that the boy's parents came past one day and looked into the playrooms where their sons were playing. As usual, the little pessimist was howling because he couldn't find a drum among the vast pile of toys that surrounded him. But when they looked into the room where the little optimist was playing, they found a happy child, eagerly digging through the pile of manure with a fork. His eyes were alive with excitement, and he was singing as he played. With all this manure around, they heard him say, "There's got to be a pony in here somewhere." So there you go. I read that one because it's not one I know off by heart. But that's a great little story with great meaning. So, 100 Wisdom Stories from Around the World by Margaret Silf. I would highly recommend this book, whether you're a storyteller or just like a collection of inspirational or motivational stories. Destiny, treasure in everyday life, the triumph of good over evil, lasting values, warnings, the art of living true, patience and determination, sacrifice, a relationship with all creation. That is the subheadings for each chapter. So, 100 Wisdom Tales from Around the World by Margaret Silf. I've recommended it before, couldn't recommend it enough. I've been asked a couple of times by storytellers after hearing a couple of the stories what the book was, so I know it's one that people are connecting with, and I would highly recommend it. So head out, find it on your Amazon devices, find it in a bookstore. I think, to be honest, Amazon's your best bet. I've never actually seen this one in a book shop other than the second-hand one that I picked up in Edinburgh. As I mentioned before, it has an inscription. This is what I love. To my dear friend Wendy, thank you for the gift of your friendship. With my love, Anne, Christmas 2003. I don't know what Wendy and Anne did to each other for Wendy to give away the book, but, you know, there's a story in that as well. Anyway, 100 Wisdom Stories from Around the World, Margaret Silf. Go out, get yourself a copy. And of course, after our book recommendation, we always move on to our podcast recommendation. The Alberta Podcast Network, which the Bothy Storytelling Podcast is a proud member of, has a wealth of podcasts out there. And hey, guys, here's the thing. I've clearly been out the loop for so long, I've just gone on their website to discover it's swanky. Oh my goodness, it's all been done up and it's all been categorised and I'm completely lost. I'm looking at this going, what's happened? Why is this all changed? But I like it because, you know what, it makes more sense. I'm looking under the education and self-improvement section because, hey, God, I think I need both. You know, after the mess I've made in the last month and a half of not doing these podcasts, I think I need some self-improvement. And I think the podcast to recommend would be Healthy Lifestyle Design. This is actually a mother and daughter podcast, which I think is quite fantastic because what a lovely relationship they must have if they're able to do these podcasts without killing each other. Maybe that's a Scottish thing in families. But it takes only a single step to make a positive change in your life, body, mind, and soul. Join Pamela and her mum Janet as they talk about how they have tried to design a healthy lifestyle. And this is one of the podcasts on the Alberta Podcast Network, Healthy Lifestyle Design. A mother and daughter podcast, which to me I think is a winner because I think it's so lovely, basically doing that with a family member, particularly a mother and daughter combination, but they're talking about healthy lifestyles, body, mind and soul. So do have a listen to Pamela and her mum Janet doing this wonderful podcast as two family members, Healthy Lifestyle Design. It takes only a single step to make a positive change in your life, body, mind and soul. And that's my podcast recommendation for the Alberta Podcast Network for this episode of the Bothy Storytelling Podcast. Now that brings us to the end of this episode of the WTF episode of the Bothy Storytelling Podcast. Yeah, put this in your outstanding arts category, people. Oh, goodness, what have I done? Literally, here I have won this award, and this is what I'm producing. I'm probably going to get it revoked. My crown or tiara will be sent back in the mail. They will nominate someone else. They'll probably just redo the whole nomination awards because of this stramash. But this is the promise I've made. I'm going to get you all the outstanding episodes up to date by the end of this month so that come April, we're all starting afresh. And if you don't believe me, I don't blame you. Yeah. Let's be honest, I'm not the most trustworthy person, clearly. I can't fulfill the promises that I've made. I've messed up many times. I think back in January I said I was going to have a proper schedule. Yeah, that went out the window in less than a month, didn't it? Well done, Callum. You're an absolute genius. This podcast is always going to be sporadic. I've kind of had to come to that conclusion simply because I do travel a lot. I am all over the place. And you know what? I'm a performer. My mood goes up and down. It's ridiculous. When I'm busy, it's great. When I'm quiet, I'm a terrible person to be around. Be grateful that you all just have to put up with me on my podcast. But I promise you, I'm going to get this done. The next 4 or 5 days, I'm going to be in my studio doing these kind of quick 30-minute episodes for you, throwing in a story, basically trying to win back your hearts, your souls, your minds, trying to win back your love for the Bothy Storytelling Podcast and my dulcet, gloriously dulcet tones. Ladies and gents, thank you for listening to this episode. Do reach out to us. I always say this. Callum Lycan, spoken word at gmail.com. Drop me an email. Head on to the Facebook page, Callum Lycan Studio. Drop me a message. Throw some insults at me for being so bad and awful at podcasting and for not kind of fulfilling my promises in the past. But I promise you this, you will get all these episodes. They might be random. Some of them might not make any sense. Some of them might just be filling airspace with me rambling. Oh, what's different? I hear you all cry, Callum. All you've done in the last year is ramble at us into the microphone. Do you know, I was actually thinking about this before we wrap it up. There's a book out there. I think it's called The Artist's Compass. Something. No. The Artist's Way. And they actually recommend that you do sit down every morning and with a bit of paper and write, I think it's 2 pages, just write 2 pages of nonsense, no matter what, even if it's like, I don't know what to write, over those 2 pages, that's it. What it is, it's just to get rid of the clutter in your mind. Well, I kind of think that's what I do in this podcast. Instead of writing it down, the clutter in my mind gets spoken to you guys. Welcome to a tiny little bit of the insecure, crazy world of my little brain. In here somewhere there is sense, there's reality, there's normality. God, I hope not. How dull would that be? Normality. Ugh. Anyway, folks, thanks for listening. Do reach out. Do ask questions. Do speak to me. Do send love. I will be back with the next episode of the Bothy Storytelling Podcast. Effectively, this would have been one for the end of January with one more to go. The next one is going to be a little bit about Rabbie Burns again because, Burns Day happened. I was out and about. So I'll see you all in the next episode of the Bothy Storytelling Podcast.